I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about that and what it can do to family dynamics, because it strikes me hearing you speak that sibling loss, it is something which can fracture a family and which changes the relationship between the other siblings and the parents, and maybe even changes the way that the parents parent the other siblings.
Completely. I mean, there's sort of so many pieces to add into that. Is that the family system is irrevocably altered, and it's tipped on one side, or turned upside down. People sometimes talk about it. It's like a bomb was thrown into the family. That's sort of the absolute kind of annihilation of what they knew and trusted and what was. And so the work of the family is to recalibrate their family system. And every member in a family grieves differently. So, if it was a teenager, they may not want to talk to their parents. They may want to talk to their mates. They may not show their sadness. And then their younger brother may want to do the opposite. And so there can be a lot of complexity and difficulty in how it's experienced, how it's expressed, and what is allowed. And of course, where families work best is when everyone has open communication, you build trust, and you can kind of say what you need and what you're feeling. But when your parents are really grieving the death of their child, that isn't always available. And of course, the outcomes for the rest of the children in that family depends on the quality of the parenting. And that is very likely to be diminished. I mean, parents do an amazing job and they really care about their other children, but it's a very complex job, parenting your living children while grieving the death of a child. And it takes much longer than anybody wants. And it uses up huge psychological resources, how to sort of trust again. The parents worry that this child could die. So, if the child is 5 minutes late, they think they've been run over. Your trust in life gets sort of turned upside down. And the other big influencer is the circumstances of the death. And again, with all of these things, there isn't a hierarchy of what is worse or better, but there is what is more complex or not. So, I mean, I've worked with families where they've had a sibling who was born with a life-limiting condition and died, or may get a diagnosis of cancer and then die. And that's very, very complicated, because while the child is alive, that child takes up all the energy and the resources in the family. So that child can feel quite alienated and left out, and feel bad that they feel left out and cross. But their parents are constantly in hospital, they're constantly not there, and they're expected to be the good sibling, like, don't make a fuss, just do your work, pass your exams. And they can often take on that persona, like, I had to be the one that was successful, I had to be the one that was healthy, I had to be the one that didn't cause them any worries. And the cost of that can come out much later in life. I've worked with sort of 40-year-olds who are having a breakdown because of what happened to them when they were 15. Which was never properly mourned, never properly recognised, the sort of toll that it took on them psychologically, putting on this persona of everything's all right. And then, of course, the other real level of complexity, and I don't know if you and I are going to do a whole seminar on it, is if the sibling dies by suicide. There was a case study of that in my book, Musi, who died by suicide. And how complex it was for his brother, who at some level wanted to kill him for having killed himself. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's not funny, but there's that kind of fury, but also devastation, and then all the complexity of death by suicide, where all the what ifs, all the questions, the unanswerable kind of revolving wheel that can go around. And the feeling of losing your parents. I mean, in Musi, he felt like his mother just stopped loving him, that she only really cared for his brother that had died. And so there can be so many knock-on effects.